All right.
Hello.
Hello again.
How are you?
Oh, I'm living the dream. So I want to address two things. First being, if you see Oliver running around in here,
It happens.
it happens. Okay, this is real life. We are for real doing this right in the middle of our day.
In the middle of our living rooms.
Yes. So if that bothers you,
Hi.
don't watch it. Listen to it. See, I told you this was bound to happen. So, real life for sure. Real life. If he hits the mic, I'm sorry. That's just how it's gonna be.
It happens.
And the second thing is, we figured out the mic situation, hopefully.
Yeah.
With me being too loud and Cheyenne being too quiet.
Not loud enough, which has unusually never been a problem for me.
So hopefully we are good this time.
Yay. Clap, clap, clap.
All right. We diving right in?
Let's roll.
All right. We're talking about... Oh, that's like way down. I don't know if that...
Oh, she's way down there. You can slide it up. Maybe. Maybe
There
not.
we go. That'll work. Hopefully that wasn't all muffled.
That'll do.
I guess if it was, oh well.
Full send. Again, we're real moms.
Yeah.
This is our lives.
Theodore's sitting right here in a bouncer, and Bubba is in the swing right next to me. Yes. So this is for
Children
real.
are accounted for. They are safe. They're in oh shit. Sorry guys. They are in safe areas of the living room currently. So shit, don't mom shame us.
What is on the bottom of your foot?
I don't know. I was looking at it. Fuck it.
Whatever. It's Baffy night anyway, so it's okay. All right. So we're doing birth stories.
Yes.
Let me take a swig first, because this is woo.
Yeah. This is gonna be labor and delivery stories. We might have to add some trigger warnings for birth trauma on a couple of these. And this is more than likely going to be in a 2-part segment. So Ellyn has 2, I have 1, and then we actually have...
one of my friends that I went to high school with, Chelsea, said that we could use her story because she thinks it's important for people to know all of the stuff that can happen.
And I mean, these are... And every single delivery that we're going to talk about is different. Every single one has their own different twists and turns and different things that happened. Some are easy, some are literally traumatizing. We have natural, and then we have other, which actually Chelsea's I know nothing about.
Cheyenne knows absolutely nothing about Chelsea's story. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for letting me use our story, because it's crazy and I can't even believe that you actually lived through that, because I don't know what I would have done, but you'll hear it in the next episode.
I'm eager to hear it, but not necessarily excited. But I think it's important to really talk about the
things that are possible.
Yes, the things that are possible and the reality of it. Let's be honest, labor and delivery, it's not pretty. It's not always picture perfect. Like, you go on TikTok or you see all of these influencers who talk about their oh my God,
absolutely
my birth was
delivery.
Beautiful and it was perfect. And it's not always the case. And some are quote unquote easier than others. Some go a little bit smoother and as planned, I guess, compared to other labors and deliveries.
And you will also hear that in a couple of these stories.
So, I mean, it's definitely a mix, but it's important to talk about all of the different things that are possible and can happen, because let's be honest, the showing just the picture perfect side of delivery,
it's not accurate.
It's not accurate and it's not fair. No. It's really not fair to new moms, because going into it, I'm going to be honest, I had no clue what I was getting into. And I mean, you kind of prepared me for good, bad, ugly, but again, it was yours. It was your own.
And like we said, all of these stories are drastically different.
And that's comparing 2 of your deliveries as well. So even yours were drastically different. So I mean, it's good to honestly be real and be truthful about delivery and what's possible and all of the things that can go wrong and that kind of stuff. So I guess without further ado, let's dive into it.
All right. So Oliver was born on June 3rd, 2021. And the whole time with that pregnancy, like we talked about in the first episode, I had really, really good pregnancies. I did. I was a little bit hypertensive with Oliver. Nothing crazy, but they were like, we're going to induce you.
Which we kind of talked about before, which was kind of like,
yeah.
Okay.
So I was like slightly hypertensive. It wasn't anything crazy. I wasn't like 200s hypertensive.
No.
I was just like 130s, 140s hypertensive.
Which, if we're being honest, like, that is possible. Like, there are women out there who you can have just hypertension in pregnancy, but you can also have preeclampsia, which is when you are
completely different.
Yes.
Well, not completely, but like only part of hypertension covers preeclampsia.
Yes. And I mean, that comes along with so many other symptoms. So like you'll see spots, you have intense headaches, swelling. And I mean, it can be a vast difference and severity of symptoms. But normally, so what a lot of people don't talk about is when they test your urine, when you go to the gynecologist or OBGYN for your appointments, is they will be testing for proteins in your urine.
I actually had to do a 24-hour urine with Oliver, which was crazy. I don't know if you've ever done a 24-hour urine. I literally, so you keep it in the fridge because you have to keep it cold, first of all. Gross.
Oh, that is yummy.
Because like we talked about in last episode, urine, germs. Gross.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
We're not foul
humans. Exactly. So I had to keep it in the fridge, and then at night, I was like, I'm not walking all the way to the fucking kitchen to get my big-ass urine jug to pee in it. Like, I'm not doing that.
Yummy.
So what I did was I took a big bowl, and I just chocked it full of ice, and I left it in the bathroom. Because fuck that. So I feel like I'm nervous that this is going to, like, move while I'm talking. Okay. So had to get that checked, whatever. So I'd never had protein in my urine. I never was preeclamptic. I just was hypertensive. Yeah. So they were like, we're gonna schedule an induction. And I was like, cool. I can plan the day. I can plan the time. I know when I'm gonna be there. I know what, like, I know the planning aspect of it. I didn't know how long I was gonna be there, but like, I knew when I had to be there. So when I went in. The doctor checked my cervix, and he was like, your cervix is high and it is very closed. Yep. And I was like, great.
Which you knew your cervix was high to begin with, didn't you?
Yes. Just because of the way pressure was but I will say those cervical checks do not feel good. No. And you got your membrane swept, which you'll talk about in your story, but that's a completely different aspect of, why are you pushing me off?
Yeah, and you guys are going to really honestly see two completely different ends of the spectrum. Because like your cervical checks hurt. Yep. And if you will notice that your anatomy has a lot to do with this too, because like since your cervix was so high, they had to literally like dig for your cervix. Yep.
And it's posterior. Yes. Or it was, because I wasn't in labor yet, so it hadn't dropped, or and he hadn't dropped. So I'm going to burp. Oh, sorry.
Get it out.
So it didn't come up. So, so I went in, he told me, your cervix is super high and very closed. And I was like, great.
Hi,
love
friend.
that for me. So they started me on Cytotec, which is, you can either take it orally or they stick it up right into your cervix. So the first round I took orally and didn't do shit. Didn't do a goddamn thing. So they come back every 4 hours, because you can take it every 4 hours. Yeah. And so they came back 4 hours later, checked, and the guy, I distinctly remember the doctor said, I can barely appreciate a 1, is what he said.
Wow. Yeah. That just makes you feel really good
and
about
I was
your
like,
cervix,
thank you
doesn't
so
it?
much. And that doctor, I'm not going to say names or anything, but that doctor was a jackass the entire time that I was there.
Oh, I think we've talked about him.
Yeah. Well, and we'll get to that.
We don't love him.
We'll get to that. No. I didn't see him with Theodore, so
thank God.
Yeah.
Maybe he got fired.
I hope
Get gone.
So
bye, bitch.
You're welcome. Okay, so So he said, I can barely appreciate a 1. And I was like, great. So then they were like, well, since it's not really doing what it's supposed to orally, let's put it right into your cervix. And I was like, okay, cool. So the doctor that I do not like, Dr. Jackass is what I'm going to call him, he shoved it up there. And like I said, cervical checks hurt. So sticking that thing up in my cervix really hurt with his big ol' ass man hands.
Oh, yeah. And for those of you who don't know, so your cervix, when you're in labor, it'll soften and everything will thin and baby will drop and all that fun stuff. When you're not in active labor, your cervix is hard. It's like punching a wall. So when people are like shoving things in there, it's like this tiny picture, a donut with like this itty bitty tiny little like slit in it that's completely closed.
If you Google cervix,
as a rock,
it looks like a donut.
Literally looks like a donut that's like closed in the middle. They're actively like trying to shove something in your cervix.
Yes.
It's not fun.
No. No, it's not. Be careful, honey. So took that. Oh, I just hit that. So still, I mean, I think I was like I was a 2 or a 3. I was a 2 or a 3, and they were like, okay, great, you're a 2 or a 3. We're going to give you the Foley balloon. So just talking about how your cervix is this hard donut, right? And it's like punching a wall. Basically what they do is they put a balloon full of saline up on top of your cervix and then below your cervix, and then they tape it to your leg to get your cervix to expand more. And then when it gets to, I think, a 5, it comes out on its own. So they would come in every so often and be like, let me pull on that string.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Love
so
that.
The lady, thank God, only came in one time to pull on my string. So she comes in, she pulls on it, she's like, it's not doing its thing yet. So she was pulling on the string, and she was like, it's not really doing anything yet, but just hold out.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm chilling, right? This hurts. Like, that thing does not feel good.
No.
So, and then before that, I wasn't feeling any of my contractions. I was not in any pain. I was kind of just...
I will say, I envy you a little bit, just for that part, just for the contraction part.
Well, so that part was completely different than the later things. It was just, I think they were so small of contractions that I wasn't feeling them at all. So after a while, they gave me Nubain and Phenergan. That's when I was knocked out.
She felt good.
So I only had it in for, I think, like an hour or something like that. It wasn't very long.
Yeah.
And then I got up to pee, and my mom was coming with me because Nubain is a pain medicine, and it makes you a little bit loopy and a little bit weird.
A little bit drunk.
No, honey. So my mom was like, I'm going to come with you and just make sure that you're okay and you're not going to fall over or whatever. So I'm in the bathroom. I sit down on the toilet, and I look at my mom and I say, it's going to fall out. It is going to fall out. And she was like, Ellyn, that's what it's supposed to do. It's okay.
But I don't want it to.
I was like, I'm fucking scared. I don't want it to fall out.
The feeling?
So then I'm sitting on the toilet, and she's like, Ellyn, it's okay. It's all good. That's what it's supposed to do.
Like, just let it happen.
I was like, okay, fine. So it literally pops out.
My favorite part about her birth story is that moment right there. I have heard her make that sound 30,000 times, and it never freaking gets old.
It is literally the sound that it made. So then the shit is taped to my leg. So I'm sitting on the toilet with this balloon dangling into the toilet. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
It's like a pendulum.
It is. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, this pendulum of death. So,
the vaginal pendulum
was not good. So
cervical pendulum? Cervical pendulum?
I don't fucking know.
Pop goes the pendulum.
Pop goes my cervix. So God.
We're good.
So I'm sitting there, barbecue sauce on my titties. So I ripped the tape off of my leg, and I'm like holding it, and I'm like looking at my mom like, what do I do?
Do I do with it?
Because my mucus plug came out with it. So it was covered in blood and mucus.
Love that for you.
If you don't want to know about any of this stuff, well, you probably shouldn't have clicked on this podcast. So, pulled it out. It was disgusting. My mom was like, she just told you to throw it away. The nurse just told you to throw it away, so just throw it away. It's all good. Threw it away, called the nurse, was like, hey.
Your mom's probably so calm through all of this.
Oh, my mom was so calm.
I just had a whole ass double-decker balloon fall out of my fucking cervix.
I was like, I'm so glad that you're so calm in this situation because I am having a panic attack.
I am, in fact, not okay.
I was hyperventilating. So after all that, called the nurse, was like, hey, the balloon fell out. She was like, oh, that's great. We're going to get the doctor in here, see, what we can do.
Great.
Okay, cool. I think at this point they started Pitocin, I believe.
I don't envy you for the Pitocin.
So, started Pitocin. I was starting to get some contractions. I don't know if you can see him. He's sitting on the coffee table.
The top of his head.
Yeah. Like we said, real life. This is real life.
Can't make this shit up.
No.
My fat boy's still sleeping.
Yeah. Snoozing.
Love that.
You need that swing. We should trade.
I'm okay with that.
I'm down. Okay.
I should probably ask Adam.
Yeah, probably. We did not make any plans without you here. I don't know what you're talking about. So then they started Pitocin. My contractions, I could feel them. They weren't bugging me. I was just like, I can definitely feel them. So nurse comes back in and she's like, they want to check you, and if you're far enough along, they want to break your water. Okay, great. Sure. So doctors come in. Dr. Jackass comes in and checks my cervix like an animal.
Wasn't he the one with the hot dog hands?
No, that was the midwife. That was the guy midwife that was there. I mean, he had large hands too, but hot dog hands was the midwife.
Actually,
that's what I'm calling them now. Hot dog hands and Dr. Jackass.
You know who was the original hot dog hands?
Who? Oh, I do know. Yeah.
We cannot speak of this.
No.
Okay. Continue.
So, hot dog hands, Dr. Jackass comes in, checks my cervix.
Okay.
Dr. Jackass is like, yeah, I feel like you're a 5, but like, I don't really know.
How the fuck do you not know? Okay, let's talk about this. When they do a cervical check, they physically stick their fingers.
And they do this.
In your vagina, and they, like, it's different for everybody. Like, they can stack, they can, like, spread their fingers.
Yeah, everybody has a different method.
And they all know, like, okay, so, like, this could be, like, a certain amount, or this could be, So some people do it in different ways, but they're physically, like, sticking their fingers in your cervix to, like, the end of it.
And a lot of the times when they do it, they'll be like, oh, there's baby's head.
Yeah. Are you just, like, poking my kid in the head? Thanks.
Okay.
So, hey, there's their soft spot.
Yeah. Oh my god, I can feel the heartbeat. Gross.
I'm so sorry, guys. That was a really obnoxious laugh.
I'm really funny. Okay.
This is going to be even more of a shit show than the first one. It's okay. It's fun.
I'll just climbing up the coffee table. I don't know what they expect from us. So, so they come in. He checks me. He's like, I don't know what that is. Hot dog hands is like, let me check.
Hot dog hands.
R.I.P. to me and my cervix.
And your vagina.
And probably Oliver's head, honestly. That's probably why I had to take him to the neurosurgeon to get his head checked.
Fuck.
Okay, anyway. Okay, so he checks me and he's like, you're like a 5. And I was like, cool. And they were like, we're going to break your water. And I was like, okay, great. So I don't know if you've ever seen the tool that they use to break your water, but it looks like an orange peeler. That's what it looks like. So they go in and they have their hand in there to feel where they are and the thingy to break it. And then Oliver's head, so like if this is my cervix, Oliver's head was sitting on it like this and my water was around his head. So his head they had to go around his head and hit the water. So like, I was like, I am in too much pain. Like I'm like dying. So I was like, and like, you can't help it when like that hurts. I can't help what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like trying not to, but I was like climbing up the back of the bed, and the Mr. Hot Dog Hands looks at me and he was like, you have to sit still if this is going to work. Or this isn't going to work if you don't sit still.
Okay. So let me shove an orange peeler up.
No, so then I said, let me shove a Q-tip up your dick, and you let me know how you feel, okay?
I love you. This just...
Because fuck you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's talk about the fact that they're actively... Okay, so like, all I can picture is like, set a piece of paper on a table.
Okay.
And then set like a bowl on top of that. And they have to go like up through the table and around the bowl to break her water.
Yeah.
They've got their hand and said orange peeler in there. Ow.
Yeah, so he was like, you really need to sit still or this isn't going to work. That's how he said
fucking
it.
Sit still.
And I was like, so then my nurse, God bless her, I remember her name. I won't say it, but I remember her name because she was heaven sent. And she was like, why don't we give her a break, guys? Like, why don't we, give her a break? She was a great advocate.
10 out of 10.
Love her.
Love nurses like that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So then they leave and they're like, okay, we'll be back in such and such minutes, whatever. My nurse comes back in and she's like, she says, you can tell them no. You don't have to let them do anything to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Patient advocates. We love that.
We love her. Love her. So, after that, she was like, my mom said, you're going to get your epidural. Why don't you just get it right now? Because if this hurts you and you're already at a 5, then your contractions are going to get worse very soon. Yeah. Right. So she was like, just
especially after they break your water.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, the anesthesiology lady comes in and she does it really quick. I felt it on my left side. It's like warm. Is that the best way to describe what it feels like? Yeah. It's like, it just feels warm when it goes in. Also I didn't think the epidural was that bad.
No, getting it?
No. Mm-mm. Because they say like, oh, it's like a bee sting because you get the lidocaine or whatever. And that it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt.
Were you actively contracting while they were doing it?
No. So it goes down my left, Oliver. It goes down my left side. I feel it. I'm like, yep, felt that on my left.
Yep.
It was warm or whatever. So I told her I didn't feel that on my right side. I didn't feel that at all. No. I just felt it on my left. And she said, okay, well, let's reposition. And I was like, okay. So she repositions it. And then Kyle is sitting in front of me. And she moved the needle, or I guess it might have been the catheter at that. I don't know, because I'm assuming to move it, you would need the needle, but whatever. So anyway, she's fixing it, and she hits a nerve, and I kick Kyle in the face.
I forgot about that.
Love you, babe. Yeah, so I kicked.
For anybody who doesn't know Kyle, he's literally like, probably, at least to me, outside looking in, he seems very passive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was like, well, I mean, I was already going through, being in the hospital and so he was like, it's fine. He
probably just was like, okay.
Yeah. So kicked Kyle in the face and I was like, I still didn't feel that warmth. I didn't feel that on that side. And she was like, well, it's probably fine. It was not fine. So a little while goes by, I'm numb.
Yeah.
Like for that first 20 minutes, I was numb. So I'm sitting there and then my right side starts coming back. I can feel everything on my right side again.
Back.
And my contractions, because I'm on Pitocin, my contractions were getting more intense.
Yes.
So at this point, I'm laying in bed because when you have an epidural, you can't get up. You can't do anything.
Yep.
So I was just stuck in bed, laying on my back. I was sitting up, but I was on my back. And my contractions were getting really bad. So I was in pain, just crying, basically.
Yeah.
So then after sitting there for a while, it switches from my left, right, my left side to my right side. So now I can feel everything on my left side, can't feel anything on my right side.
Which is just even worse because it's like I would rather feel everything than not feel.
That was so frustrating.
One side but feel the other.
Yeah, that was so annoying.
Especially when it's switching.
Yeah, it was terrible. So that happened a couple times. My mom was like, we need to call anesthesia in here. Like, this is not supposed to be happening.
Yeah, this isn't okay.
So we call the lady that did the epidural in the first place. She comes in. She thought I was lying. I was like,
why the fuck would you lie about that?
So she comes in and she's talking to me, and I got a contraction while I was talking to her, and I was like, give me just a second. And I'm like breathing through it. I'm like sobbing, right? Because I'm in pain, and I'm not supposed to be in pain because that's not how it's supposed to work. That's not how it worked for everybody in the videos that I've seen, right?
Correct.
That was, oh God. So then she was like, well, I'll turn, because if you can push a button on the epidural every depends on who you are, but every 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, you can push that button to get more drugs going through your system so you stay numb. So she was like, I'll move it, because it was at 30 minutes. I could push it every 30 minutes. And at this point, I was like, they tell you not to let anybody else push that button. I was in so much pain. I told Kyle and my mom, I don't give a fuck who pushes that goddamn button. But when that timer runs down, you push that fucking button.
Well, so my whole question about this whole she didn't believe you thing, bitch, if I was numb,
why would I be in agonized? Like,
I'm not going to ask you for more shit to make me more numb. I'm already numb. I can't feel anything. And it's not like it's going to make me like
high.
More numb.
It's not going to make me high. Why would I ask for more? Whatever.
What the fuck? It's fine.
I'm not a drug seeker to feel numb.
No.
I mean, like, literally numb.
No.
Not mentally numb.
Tomato.
So it was, I could push that button every 30 minutes. She moved it down to 20. You can push it every 20 minutes. Sick. Great.
Yeah.
I didn't fucking do a goddamn thing. So I'm still in pain.
Thanks for that.
I'm still pushing the button every time the timer runs out. I'm pushing that button. Nothing's happening. Nothing's working. Then she comes in again and moves it down to 15 minutes. I can push it every 15 minutes. Still didn't do a goddamn thing. So then my nurse comes in and she's like trying to get me in a comfortable position, because an epidural is gravity helps.
Yes.
An epidural.
Yep.
So she was like, let's turn you on the side that isn't working and see if it will get down there. I should also mention, the lady that did it said, oh, this isn't an epidural anymore. This is a spinal. I don't know how that's different, because I don't know.
They didn't necessarily explain it to me. So, which I'll go into this a little bit more, but I know so they did a spinal and an epidural when they did mine. Mm-hmm. So they pushed fentanyl in my spinal to let my epidural wear in.
Okay.
So once my epidural kicked in, the fentanyl was then gone, and
I see.
My epidural.
Well, that's what they told me. They said this is a spinal, right? This is a spinal now. This isn't an epidural.
Yeah.
And she was like taping shit everywhere, because she was like, if somebody tries to come take this out after you have that baby, tell them no. And I was like, got it. I'm on it. So she was like taping. I could hear it.
Aye, Captain.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to fucking touch it. Don't worry.
I am a little busy at the present moment.
And I was going to be more busy when the baby came out.
Yeah. Nope, not touching it.
So she put it up 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. She, moved it to when I could push it all those times or whatever. So still wasn't really working. Then, so it was, okay, that's a lie, because it did kind of start to work when my nurse put me on my side. She put me on my side.
Okay.
And like tried to get it to go to, the side that wasn't numb. And she came and moved me every time. She was blessing, this lady. So it did start to work, a little bit, but then every time it would start to wear off and my other side would be not numb, she would come in and flip me. So then what happened was my hips down were numb, but I could feel all of my contractions. So, so stupid looking back on this. So then after that, you know, I just kind of dealt with it because I was like,
it's done.
What am I going to do? She's not going to fix it because, what did you look up?
Okay, so
difference between a spinal and an epidural.
Okay. So I actually wanted to clarify so that we were all, you know, because when you're in labor, you don't ask these questions. So the main difference is the placement. So
that's what I figured, but like I didn't want to say that and be wrong.
So an epidural anesthesia is injected into the epidural space. And a spinal, the anesthesia is injected into the dural sac that contains cerebrospinal fluid. So that means that with the spinal, it gives you immediate relief, whereas an epidural
takes a minute.
It takes a little bit.
No. So at this point, I'm like, whatever. Like if it's gonna hurt, it's gonna hurt. It's not like I can do anything about it now.
You can't. Yeah.
So trying to breathe through them, trying to do everything I can without being able to walk, without being able to move.
Which is probably the worst part. Not being able to move.
And now having a natural birth, yes, it was.
Yep.
I think I ended up falling asleep, and maybe it ended up working because when I actually had him, I couldn't feel my contractions. Yeah. Like when I was actually pushing and stuff, because they had to tell me to push and everything, like everything. Tell you when, yeah. So it must have switched or I don't know, whatever.
Oh, who the fuck knows?
I don't care. It worked. So it was shift change, and I was at a 6 the last time they had checked me. Hi, love. I was at a 6 the last time they had checked me. Yeah. My nurse checked me. And
she said.
So then at shift change, she comes in and introduces me to my new nurse, you know, yada, yada, yada. That nurse was actually training. She was coming from ER to labor and delivery. Yeah. So, and thank God because of what happens in this story. So you're really hot. So they come in and they're like, this is so-and-so. They're going to come in and check you in a minute, like in a little bit when we get done with our rounds. Yeah. Okay, great. So I'm just chilling, right? They come back in at 7:42, I believe is what time it was, because my mom was texting the group chat so I could look at the times. So 7:42, they come in. My nurse checks me, the one that's training, and she's like, oh, I think you're like ready. Like I think you're a 10. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she said, yeah, you're like ready to push.
Reverse. Try that again.
Yeah. I just need to clarify. Hold on. So she's like, let me go get the nurse that I'm following and have her double check for me. I'm numb at this point. I don't give a fuck how many people are sticking things up in me because I can't feel it. No. So other nurse comes in, checks me. She's like,
great hours ago.
Oh, yeah, literally. So she tells me, oh, yeah, you're a 10. You're, like, ready. They didn't have jack shit set up in my room. They didn't have, you know, the bed with the warmer that the baby sits on. They didn't have the table with all the tools. They didn't have gowns out. They didn't have anything ready. So the corpsman comes in and is setting all this shit up. And
probably running around like a chicken with its head cut off.
Yes. And I remember his name, too. And he was covered in tattoos. And I remember being like, I like your tattoos.
The things you remember in the middle of all of this chaos are actually astounding.
So let me know if this falls because it keeps coming and touching me in like the neck. And
would it be easier for you to hold yours?
No, because I don't want to be too loud. Because I move too much. Okay.
We're back.
We are back. So Corman's running around.
Tattoos.
Setting tattoos. What we're going to call him. Tattoos. So he's, you know, running around getting everything. Oh, I'm sorry, Theodore. Getting everything set up. I'm loud. Sorry, bud. Getting everything set up. They get people in there, you know, everything. I like fast. She came in at 7:42 to check me, and I pushed 4.5 times. Oliver was out. He was born at 7:58.
Okay. That's like little bit of time was like
un poco.
Very small.
Un poco time.
Smallest amount of time was probably the best part.
Yeah.
About your birth.
Yeah.
With Oliver.
It was. Except that I had a panic attack. Because when they came in and told me, oh yeah, you're ready to push. Yeah, it's time to push.
I'm not ready.
I looked at my mom. What the fuck? I have to.
Well, because it goes from like 0 to 100. Like they're like, oh yeah, no, you're not ready.
And they're like,
time. And then they come back in and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you're having a baby.
And he was like, my mom said when I put my legs up in the thingies, whatever they're called, they weren't stirrups. They like set your legs in them.
Oh yeah, the flat ones.
Yeah. So I put my legs up there. My mom said
we're gonna call them leg trays.
Okay. My immediate thought was a charcuterie board. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just thinking of charcuterie boards with like limbs. Okay.
We're so fucked up.
Okay, anyway. So my mom said when I put my legs up in
the charcuterie.
What is leg trays? Okay. When I put my legs up in the leg trays, my mom said that he was literally already crowning. Like he was right there.
He said, "Sup, bitches, I'm ready."
So
I'm here.
He comes out, you know, they put him on me and I'm like sobbing, right? Obviously. Yeah. And it was all cute and great and fun and whatever. And then I'm like, my back kind of hurts.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. And I told my mom, I said, maybe it was just from, you know, pushing or the contractions, like maybe I'm
like
sore.
Your position. Yeah.
Right. So I was like, maybe, but I remember being like, oh, and when I was pushing, Kyle had to hold me up. Like, because I couldn't hold because my back hurt. So I was like, he was like holding me up to push because you have to like bear down. Yeah. Like, so he was holding me so I could push. And then afterwards, you know, you're focused on the baby. So like, you're not thinking, I wasn't thinking about me at all.
No. And there's like an adrenaline rush and drop and all of the fun stuff.
So I was like, afterwards I looked at my mom and Kyle and I was like, my back hurts, like between my shoulder blades. Cause I remember being like, it would make sense if it was like lower, right? Cause like where the spinal was. Yeah. And I was like, but in between my shoulder blades hurts. My mom's like, maybe you're just sore, you know, from all the stuff that just happened, right? Or laying in a janky ass hospital bed for 42 hours or 48 hours. Excuse me. Sorry if you heard that. That was gross. I'll cut that out if it was nasty.
I heard nothing.
Okay. Well, they might have, cause they're right next to my gullet.
Your gullet.
So
all I can picture is
what?
A fucking turkey neck.
Okay. So so then after they get, you know, everything whatever, they're stitching me up for an hour. I had a second-degree tear. She said, technically, I think it's a third. She was like, but I think it's just on that cusp, so I'm going to say it's a second degree. And I was like, sure, cool. Sounds good to me. So they give me...
your eyes start twitching. Like, you're just like, fuck.
No. So they stitch me up. Takes an hour for them to stitch me up. I tore down almost all the way to my butthole. Super fun. And then I also tore up. My clitoral hood tore.
Yummy.
When she said that to me, I was like,
oh, what the fuck?
She said, I'm not going to stitch this one. She said, it's really little. If it bothers you later, you know, let somebody know.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Okay, great. So.
Don't mind how crusty my socks look.
Oh, God. Now I forgot where I was again.
Clitoral hood.
Oh, yeah. So they stitched me up. That got me right back in the moment. So they stitched me up for an hour.
Yep.
And I was holding Oliver, you know, skin to skin that whole time. And then afterwards they were like, do you want to try breastfeeding? And I was like, sure.
Let's give her a whirl.
We'll give her a rip.
I'm in excruciating pain, but sure.
So I couldn't even hold him. Like I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't look down to do, because it hurts. Like when you move.
Well, plus then you kind of have to like.
Yeah, and
it's just a lot of bending
in
places that you couldn't bend.
It hurt. So I was like, I did my best, but So then my mom's like, this is not normal. I gave Oliver to Kyle or her someone, and I was just laying on my back flat because I was like, this hurts.
Yeah.
And just like every movement was like that shift in CSF was like, ow, it hurt. And so I was like, oh, and they had taken the thing out already, right?
Yeah.
So my mom was like, this is not right. We need to call somebody in here to figure this out. And then my favorite man, the one that I said,
we love this man.
We do. After he fixed me, I told him I would kiss him on the mouth, and he was very uncomfortable with that statement, but that's okay. So
you know what? You get what you could get.
He was very nice. He was just like, anesthesia. They don't talk to their patients. They're asleep.
No.
So he was just a little bit awkward. Very nice man.
He's like, I don't normally have this much interaction with humans.
People are usually unconscious when I'm speaking to them. So,
or in so much pain, they're quiet.
Yeah. So, or very loud.
Yeah, that too.
So he comes in and he's like, yeah, this isn't normal. My mom's like explaining to him that my dad had cancer, he had leukemia, and whenever he would get a spinal tap, he would get a spinal headache, and this would happen to him. So my mom's explaining to him, or this guy, that this is what happens to her dad. She's built just like her dad, so this is probably what's happening. And he was like, well, they couldn't do a blood patch, which is ultimately what they ended up having to do. So he was like, we're going to try everything that we can until we get to doing a blood patch.
Yes. It's like last resort.
Right. And I was like, well, can we just fast forward? Can we skip to that? Because that sounds like it's going to work. So they brought me in lunch. I couldn't eat it. I couldn't sit up. I tried, but because I hadn't eaten in 48 hours.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is stupid.
So you're exhausted, hungry, in pain, and you have a newborn.
In a hospital, you're not sleeping.
No.
So I was exhausted.
And you're anxious, and you're just
in pain.
Yes,
and
it's bad. It's
so bad. So he says, try to drink some caffeine.
What? Bitch, I can't move.
I'm going to call him Tom. His name was not Tom, but I'm going to call him Tom. Tom, what
Tom
the fuck are you talking about? Exactly.
Tom's fucking foolery. Hey, I just want to let you know, my toes, they don't bend that way.
But they just did. Did you see it? So he's like, try to drink some caffeine. Maybe that'll help. Maybe it's just a caffeine headache. Bitch, it was from the crown of my head all the way down to my ass, right? Like, it was bad pain, bad, like worse than my contractions, bad, and constant. At least with my contractions, I got a minute of a break.
Yeah.
I didn't get a fucking break with a spinal headache. That shit hurts. If you've ever had one, you know what I'm talking about. That is terrible, terrible pain. And some people go home and take care of their children with that after getting an epidural.
How?
I literally have no idea. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I cannot read this to you right now. Caffeine obviously didn't work, right? Didn't fucking work. Didn't touch a goddamn thing.
Caca.
Yeah. He's like, let's try. He's like, I read a study. He was like, I'm not telling you that this is gonna work, but we're gonna try it. And I was like, great, hit me with it. Sure. Wonderful. Did I tell you about this? I don't know if I told you about this. Did. So what they do is they took lidocaine and they stuck like the COVID test swabs. Uh-huh. Stuck that in the lidocaine, and then they had me lay back and put so that my nostrils were like straight up, and put that and touched my spine through my nose, like where my spine would have been touching that tissue.
You've got me absolutely fucking trashed.
It didn't hurt. It was just like, I mean, it was like a tap. Like, he literally it wasn't like a COVID test where they're like.
But to me, like, if you've already got like a spinal headache, that would just not.
I honestly, don't. I blocked a lot of this out.
I'd rather you not touch my nose.
Touch my brain.
It's literally my
fucking spine. So, he did that, and it actually worked for like 5 minutes. It actually helped. And so he was like, well, that's really great to know. Like, thank you for, and I was like, can we fucking get on to the blood patch, please? Can we get there?
Keep moving. Let's
I don't
just
know.
keep the shit rolling.
I don't know if they did anything else or they tried anything else. I don't remember. But ultimately we got to the blood patch because that was the only thing that
So are you telling me this motherfucker probably left her room after the first like caffeine incident, researched how that's props to him.
I loved him
for actually like doing this.
I loved him. I told him I would kiss him on the mouth.
Maybe just put a little bit more lidocaine
Honestly,
on there next time.
I think he was gay.
It's all adding up now.
I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Come here, Tom.
Let me give you a smooch.
Let me give you a big smooch right there on the lips. So, he's like, so he comes back in after, that didn't fucking work. He comes back in and he's like, we're going to do the blood patch now. And I'm like, yeah. Great.
Go ahead.
So he tells me, all the risks and, whatever. And he's like, I need you to sign this paperwork, yada, 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 consent and whatever. I'm like, what are my chances of this working? I said. And he said, 99%. And I said, do it.
Don't care what you got to do. Just
actually, I think he said 90%. And he was like, and I said, okay, what happens in that 10? Like what? And he told me, I don't fucking remember.
What is that 10%? Like,
and he was like, this, and this. Don't give a fuck. Do it. I don't care. So basically what they do is, I had to lay on my side because I was in so much pain. Couldn't sit up. So I laid on my side. I had this arm out, my left arm out. And the nurse that was from the ER had done these before because this is normally an ER thing. This is not a labor and delivery thing that they do normally on this floor. They draw your blood, and Kyle can explain this better to me better than me because I was in so much pain I wasn't paying attention to what they were telling me. But basically, in my, this is why it's called a blood patch. In my understanding, they take blood from your arm and they basically plug the hole of where they like put it in, and it like, because when a spinal headache happens, basically what happens is that your cerebral spinal fluid is leaking out, and then it's unbalanced. It's not what it's supposed to be. So they've put blood in there so it evens it out again. Yeah. So after she drew my blood, it was like all sterile. Like it all was like, don't touch anything. And I couldn't move. I had to stay completely still because he had to give me basically another epidural, another spinal to do it, to get it done. I had 3 holes in my back when I was done. I have a picture of it. Mm-hmm. I had 3 holes in my back. So she draws my blood and hands him the syringe with the blood in it. And he's like figuring out, what spot to go in and whatever. And he's like, okay, we're going to go here. And I'm like, all right, great. So then he did that. And I think he asked me if I felt it on both sides or I felt it on one or whatever. And I said, I felt it on only one. And he was like, okay, then I'm going to move. He said, I'm going to pull out and I'm going to do it again. Because I don't trust to do that like that. And I was like, thank you. Because
you're the first person
fucking night shift
had that
bitch.
idea.
Had no idea what the fuck she was doing. She was probably great. I just had a bad experience.
Bad night.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm gonna do it again. And I was like, great. I can't feel a thing because you already lidocaine the fuck out of me. So you just go do whatever you gotta do.
Do whatever you have.
So basically how he explained it is that they push in so many cc's of blood. And he said usually at about 16 cc's is when people start feeling pressure, which is like, it went from where he was in my back, so like where you get an epidural, and then all the way down to my ass. Yeah. Like all the way down to my tailbone. So he was like, just be prepared for that pressure. This was not pressure. This was pain. So, and they'll do that a lot in the medical field. Oh, are you feeling pressure? No, it fucking hurts.
It hurts.
It hurts.
It's not just pressure. It's fucking pain.
It's like contractions. Yeah. They say it's a lot of pressure. No, that shit hurts.
Yeah. No, not fun.
Mm-mm. So, he's like sprawled. So, he's like telling me or whatever, and he starts pushing it. Immediately, I didn't even get to 12 cc's. Immediately, as soon as he started pushing it, it was hurting. And he told me later, he was like, you scared me. He said, because that has never happened to me before. He was like, obviously I wasn't going to tell you that when it happened, but at this point I was good. I was fine. But he was like, you are the first person that has scared me. And I was like, Tom, great. I'm so sorry. So
I apologize.
Yeah. So he started pushing and I was like, there was like 8 people surrounding me. Kyle couldn't come up to the side of the bed and like hold my hand or anything because it was so sterile and there were so many people. So he was standing in the back holding Oliver and with my mom, and they were just kind of watching. I'm screaming. Every time they do that, they push, I'm like, ow, 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 like yelling, screaming, because it hurt so bad. Kyle was sobbing. I'm airing your dirty laundry, Kyle. Sorry.
Like, he can't fix it. He can't help you.
He can't fix it.
You're in pain.
Yeah.
Like,
so he's crying. I'm crying because it fucking hurts.
Yeah.
So he finally gets a good amount in. He's like, this is good. This is gonna work. We can stop. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's get out of here, please. So after that, they gave me fentanyl because rolling me over, because I was on my side, rolling me to my back to let it all even out hurt so bad because like you're going from one end of pressure to the exact opposite. Yeah. So they rolled me, they gave me fentanyl and rolled me. I fucking hate fentanyl. Don't give me that shit ever. I hate fentanyl. I felt like I could still feel all of the pain. I just felt drunk. Yeah. Which was not the move. As much as I wanted a drink, that was not what I wanted at the time. After they all left, Kyle came up to the side of my bed and was like, I never want to see you like that again. Ever. Yeah. And he was crying, and I was crying, and my mom was crying. Oliver was probably crying too. My mom said that when she stayed on the medical side of things, she was good. Yeah. Like, she was like, I'm like, when she said when she was watching them stitch me up, like down, it was fine. She was good. But as soon as she was up on my head, a mess. She was crying. And same thing with,
it was almost like as long as she didn't see your reaction, she was good. She was fine.
She was totally okay. So then after that, so usually in labor and delivery, they move you directly after you have your baby to postpartum. Yeah. I had him at 7:58 in the morning. I didn't get moved to postpartum until 7 p.m. because all of that happened in labor and delivery. Jesus. So 7 p.m. they moved me to postpartum, and after that I was, pretty normal. Kyle had to do almost everything for me because I couldn't do a lot of stuff because they literally said, if you do too much that strains on your back, you will pop that blood patch out and all of that pain will come back. And I was like,
and then you got to do it all over again, which is just even worse.
Goddamn thing. I'm
going to sit my ass on my couch and do
nothing. So Kyle washed my hair after I had Oliver. He washed my body. He changed all of my diapers. He changed all of his diapers.
Oh my God.
He did everything. I couldn't do anything. And then even when I got home, and even still now, I do get bad headaches. Yeah. Definitely not as bad as after that. For about a month after I had him, I got severe headaches. And like light would really affect me. Yeah. And I pretty much napped whenever those happened because no medicine could take that away. But it was better than the pain that I was feeling in the hospital. So
God bless it.
God bless. Yeah, that's my story.
All right. That is the end of this episode.
We'll do each one a different one then.
So we're going to do mine in the next episode.
Yeah, we're almost there.
So we shall see you guys
next time.
Oh,
I wanted to say really quick, we are on TikTok, Instagram, and we have a Facebook group.
Spotify, Anchor,
and Apple Podcasts.
Yep.
It's either Hold My Pump or Hold My Pump Podcast on all of those. So check us out.
Yes.
Thanks for listening, you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.